Welcome to the deep dive. So this one was sparked by a listener question, actually. James from Boise, Idaho.
Oh, Boise, nice. What's James wondering about?
Well, he mentioned he's been sort of looking into crypto for about 5 months, getting his head around it. And now he feels ready for that first big step, actually buying some.
Ah, okay. The practical jump makes sense. Well, this is Season 2, Episode 17. And just as a reminder, Season 2 is our blockchain blueprint, cryptocurrencies, digital assets, and more.
Exactly. And today, we're really grounding ourselves in a fantastic starting point, a beginner's guide to buying cryptocurrency, written by Katie St. Ors, who's a CFP.
Right. Good foundational stuff.
And here's the really cool part. Our producer for this deep dive, who's also a digital asset tax specialist, is Katie St. Ors herself. So we've got the author's expertise baked right in. Right at the start, volatility. This market is, well, it's known for it. Prices can swing wildly.
Absolutely critical point. So think of this as rule 0. Never, ever invest more money than you could actually afford to lose, like genuinely lose. Doing your homework, the research isn't just recommended, it's essential. And figuring out your own comfort level with risk before you even look at a buy button.
Couldn't agree more. First things first.
Okay, so let's dive into the guide. It starts right at the beginning. What is cryptocurrency, fundamentally?
Okay, so the guide defines it pretty simply. It's a digital or virtual token. The key thing that makes it different is cryptography. That's complex math and computer science used for security.
Like digital locks and keys. Exactly. Really strong digital locks and unique signatures protecting everything. And that's often built on, well, something we talk about a lot this season.
Blockchain.
Right. Many cryptos run on decentralized systems, usually blockchain. So instead of one bank holding the records, it's like this shared digital ledger. A record book, constantly updated, kept in sync across tons of computers worldwide.
So it's spread out, no single weak point.
That's the idea. Makes it tough to shut down or tamper with.
Yeah.
So digital, crypto secured, often decentralized, but yeah, the guide immediately brings up that warning again.
The volatility.
Can't say it enough. It's huge. You will see big price jumps up and down, sometimes really fast.
Which leads back to the guide's point. Research the specific crypto you're considering and be really honest with yourself. Can you handle seeing the value drop significantly without freaking out?
Yeah, that's the gut check you need to do first.
Right. Basics covered, risks understood, hopefully. So where do you actually go to buy this stuff? The guide says exchanges are the main place.
Yeah, that's the usual on-ramp for most people starting out. Online platforms built for buying, selling, trading crypto.
And the guide breaks them down. First, centralized exchanges. CEXs.
Yep, CEXs. They're the most common, generally the easiest entry point. They work like a middleman, a broker almost, matching buyers and sellers. Think names like Coinbase, Binance, Kraken, Gemini. Those are the examples given.
And what makes them beginner-friendly?
Usually they have, cleaner interfaces, easier ways to put your regular money in, and actual customer support if you get stuck. The flip side, though, as the guide points out,
there's always a flip side.
you're trusting that company with your money and your personal info. When your crypto's on their platform, technically they control the private keys, not you directly.
Okay, that's a really important distinction. Then there are the other kind, decentralized exchanges.
DXs?
Right, DXs. Totally different beast. They let people trade directly with each other, peer-to-peer, using these automated rules called smart contracts. No central company holding the cash. Uniswap, PancakeSwap, those are big examples. And the big plus there is.
You keep control of your own keys the whole time. More self-custody.
But the guide mentions downsides too, right? Like complexity.
Exactly. They can be trickier to figure out, especially first time around. And sometimes, for less common cryptos, there might not be as many buyers or sellers readily available, which is called lower liquidity.
Got it.
Trade in your boring job for a brilliant career using Adobe Creative Cloud. Start learning now with the free trial link in the description.
And then there are traditional brokers dipping their toes in.
Yeah, the guide mentions platforms like Robinhood or eToro. They're adding crypto alongside stocks. Convenient if you're already there, maybe, but sometimes fewer crypto choices or other limitations compared to the dedicated crypto exchanges.
Okay, lots of options. So how do you pick one? The guide has a checklist, which seems super helpful.
Number 1 has to be security. You want platforms with strong defenses, things like mandatory two-factor authentication or 2FA. Look at their track record. Do they talk about using cold storage, keeping funds offline? That's good.
Makes sense. Then fees, I imagine.
Oh, yeah. Big time. Trading fees, fees to deposit money, fees to withdraw it. They can really vary. You need to understand their whole fee structure before you commit.
And do they actually have the crypto you want to buy?
Seems basic, but yeah. Check their list of supported cryptocurrencies. Don't want to go through sign up to find they don't have what you're after.
Ease of use is probably big for beginners, too.
Definitely. A confusing platform just adds stress you don't need. And check the payment methods. Do they take your bank transfer? Debit card? What about PayPal? Credit cards are sometimes an option, but big heads up there.
Right, the guide warned about credit cards. High fees,
Yeah.
maybe treated as a cash advance by your bank. Some banks just block it anyway.
Exactly. Also, look for regulatory compliance. Are they playing by the rules in your country?
Good point. And what if something goes wrong?
Customer support. You want to know there's help available if you need it. And finally, maybe just do a quick search online, see what other users are saying, check their reputation.
Okay, so you've weighed those factors, picked your platform. Next up, actually creating the account, getting verified.
Pretty standard stuff for most regulated places. You'll give your basic info name, email, phone.
And right away, the guide says, strong password, unique password. Use a password manager if you can.
Yes. And then activate two-factor authentication, 2FA. Cannot stress this enough. It's like a second code, usually from your phone, needed to log in. Even if someone gets your password, they still can't get in without that second factor.
Like a double lock on the door. Crucial. After that, identity check time.
Usually, yeah. It's called KYC, Know Your Customer, and AML, anti-money laundering. Regulations require it. You'll likely need to upload a photo of your driver's license or passport, maybe proof of address like a bill.
And the guide says this verification can take a little while sometimes.
Could be minutes, could be a few days. Depends on the platform, how busy they are. So just factor that in. Might need a bit of patience.
Okay, account set up, verified, secured with 2FA. Now you need fuel for the fire funding the account.
Right. Got to get some actual money in there. The guide lists the common ways. Bank transfers are one.
Like ACH or wire transfers?
Yep. Often the cheapest way for larger amounts, but they're not instant. Usually take a few business days to show up in your exchange account.
SASTR option.
Debit card. Usually pretty much instant funding. Great if you see a price you like and want to act fast, but the limits might be lower than a bank transfer, and fees can sometimes be a touch higher.
And credit cards. We mentioned the warnings.
Yeah, worth repeating. Possible, sometimes, but watch out for high fees from both the exchange and your credit card company, potentially treating it like taking cash out. And your bank might just say no anyway.
What about PayPal?
Some exchanges support it, yeah. Another convenient option for some. And whatever method you choose, just keep an eye out for any deposit fees the exchange itself might charge.
All right, the moment of truth. Funds are in the account. You're ready to actually place that first crypto order.
Okay, so first step inside the platform. Pick the crypto you want. Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever you decide on after your research. BTC, ETH. You'll see the symbols.
Then you say how much. Either in your own currency, like, I want $100 worth.
Right, or you can specify the amount of the crypto itself, like, I want to buy 0.005 Bitcoin.
And then there are different ways to place the order. The guide mentions order types.
Yeah, this gives you some control. The simplest is a market order. That just means buy it for me now at the best price available on the market.
So it's fast.
Fastest way. But, prices flicker constantly, so the final price you actually get might be a tiny bit different from the price you saw displayed a second before. It's called slippage.
Okay. What if I want more certainty on the price?
Then you use a limit order. With a limit order, you set the maximum price you're willing to pay. Your order only gets filled if the market price hits your target price or goes even lower.
So you control the price, but the downside is it might never hit your price.
Exactly. No guarantee the order will actually execute if the market stays above your limit.
Makes sense. The guide mentioned stop orders too. Less common for a first buy, maybe.
Yeah, a buy-stop order is placed above the current price. It triggers a market buy only if the price rises to that level. Traders use it sometimes if they think a price is about to break out upwards. Probably not your first move, though.
Got it. So, market for speed, limit for price control. Before hitting confirm.
Review everything. The guide really hammers this home. Double check. Which crypto? How much? Is it a market or limit order? What are the fees? Make absolutely sure before you commit.
And once you hit confirm.
The exchange does its thing, and boom, the crypto should appear in your account balance in your wallet on the exchange.
Which brings us to a really critical point the guide makes, especially for holding long-term or larger amounts. Don't just leave it all sitting there on the exchange.
Yeah, this is super important. Why? Because exchanges are targets. They hold a lot of crypto. They have security, yes, but they can be hacked. Or they could go out of business. If that happens, funds held on the exchange could potentially be lost.
So the solution is personal wallets.
Trade in your boring job for a brilliant career using Adobe Creative Cloud. Start learning now with the free trial link in the description.
What exactly are those?
Okay, key concept here. Wallets don't actually hold the coins themselves. The coins live on the blockchain. What your wallet holds are your private keys.
The keys that prove ownership.
Exactly. The secret codes that let you access and spend the crypto linked to your address on the blockchain. The wallet is just the tool to manage those keys securely.
And the guide talks about different types. Hot wallets first.
Right. Hot wallets or software wallets. These are connected to the internet somehow. Think apps on your computer or phone or browser extensions like MetaMask.
Pros and cons.
Pro, usually free, convenient for quick access, easy to use for trading. Con, because they're online, they're more exposed to online threats, malware, phishing scams if your device gets hacked.
Okay, so convenient but less secure for large amounts. What's the alternative? Cold wallets.
Yep. Cold wallets keep your private keys stored completely offline.
How does that work?
Most common type is a hardware wallet. It's a little physical device, looks like a USB stick sometimes. Companies like Ledger or Trezor make them. When you make a transaction, you plug it in, confirm on the device itself, but the private key never actually leaves that secure little device.
So the key stays offline even when you use it. That sounds much safer.
It's considered the gold standard for security, especially for larger amounts or long-term holding. There are also paper wallets, literally printing your keys on paper. Secure if you store the paper perfectly, but, vulnerable to fire, water, just losing it.
So cold storage,
Oh.
maximum security because keys are offline. Downsides are less convenient for frequent trading, hardware wallets cost money, and you have to physically protect the device or paper.
Precisely. And now, the guide flags this as maybe the single most important thing about wallets, the recovery phrase, sometimes called a seed phrase.
Okay, what is that?
When you set up almost any personal wallet, hot or cold, it will give you a list of 12 or 24 random words. This phrase is like the master key. It can restore access to all your crypto associated with that wallet, even if you lose the device or uninstall the app.
Wow. Okay, so what do you do with it?
The guide is emphatic here. Write it down carefully, accurately. Store it in multiple, secure, offline places. Not on your computer, not in your email, not in the cloud, offline. Physical copies, hidden safely, and never, ever, ever share it with anyone. No legitimate support person will ever ask for it.
Because if you lose that phrase...
And your device fails or is lost, your crypto is gone forever. There's no forgot password link, no central company to call. You lose the phrase, you lose the funds. Full stop.
That's a heavy responsibility. Very different from a bank account. Okay, moving on, the guide wraps up with some key tips for beginners.
Yeah, good summary points. First, start small. Don't bet the farm on your first purchase. Use an amount you're genuinely okay with losing while you're just learning the ropes.
Makes sense. And then research.
Do your own research. DYOR. You'll see that acronym everywhere. Don't just buy because someone online is hyping it. Dig into the project itself. What does it do? Who's the team? What's the tech? What are the tokenomics like? How many coins are there? How are they used? Form your own opinion.
Good advice. What else?
Diversify, maybe, but only over time as you learn more, and only after researching each new thing properly. Don't just scatter money randomly.
And be wary of scams.
Oh, yes. The guide gives a big warning here. Phishing emails trying to steal your logins or seed phrase, fake exchange websites that look real, schemes where people pump up a price then dump it on newcomers. Impersonators. Be super skeptical if it sounds too good to be true.
It probably is.
Almost certainly. Also, prepare for the volatility mentally. We keep saying it, but expect those price swings. Try not to panic sell when it drops or FOMO buy when it rockets up. Have a plan.
And keep learning, right? This space changes fast.
Constantly. Stay curious. Keep reading. Keep learning. It's part of the deal.
Which brings us back full circle, really, to the risks. The guide lists them out clearly again at the end.
Yep. Volatility, number one. Huge, unpredictable price moves.
Lack of regulation, in many areas at least. Less protection than traditional finance.
Security risks, hacking, scams, fraud are unfortunately common.
Complexity understanding the tech, the market. It takes effort.
No intrinsic value for many cryptos. Value driven by belief, demand, speculation, not underlying assets like a company's profits.
And that big one. Irreversible transactions. Send to the wrong address, get scammed.
Yeah.
The crypto is usually gone for good. No takebacks.
Yeah, the blockchain doesn't have an undo button.
So that really walks us through the guide's roadmap. Understanding the basics, picking a platform, setting up, funding, buying, and crucially, securing your assets.
It definitely shows that first purchase is, it's a process, a learning curve.
For sure. And the core message from Katie St. Orr's guide seems clear. Be smart about where you buy, be obsessive about security, especially that seed phrase. Start with small amounts you can afford to risk, and just commit to learning as you go.
It's a really solid framework, I think, for James in Boise or anyone else just starting out. Gives you the steps, but also the necessary warnings.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll see you next time.
See you later.
Okay, great. That's a wrap. I'm Katie St. Orr's, and let me send out a huge thank you for listening. If you want more content on personal finance and small business, head over and find me on YouTube. You can also find me on Spotify, Amazon Music, TikTok, and Apple iTunes. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next Deep Dive podcast.